Hi everybody! This is our last painting to celebrate America's 250th birthday this month. Let's paint a single, standalone American bison. Isn't he magnificent? Just standing there in the prairie, watching over maybe his herd. Maybe he's looking for his own family. I'm not sure what his story is, but it fascinated me enough to want to pick up a brush and paint him. I already painted a bison herd crossing a misty morning stream, and here's a picture of that. And you're welcome to go back into my videos and paint that one. That was relatively easy and it was fun to do. But this guy is just going to be here on his own. I'm using Naples yellow for the grass or the wheat. And then I also used ultramarine for the sky. You could use cerulean blue or you could use cobalt blue depending on how vivid you want your sky to be. As we paint, I'll be adding pictures of other bulls in the middle of nowhere, really, because that's what they do. They either are close to their herds or they're off wandering around their territories looking for I'm not sure what they're looking for. Probably more females to add to their herd. While both males and females have horns for the bisons, you can tell them apart by the shape of those horns. So the females have a more slender C-shaped horn compared to the thicker, more curved horns of the males. And the horns will serve, of course, multiple purposes, mainly defense, but also for social communication with the herd. I'm adding just a little bit of burnt umber to the grass area so I can build up some shadows within this wheat. This is a live feed from one of the prairies. It's actually a Canadian national forest. It's called the Grassland National Forest. And it's just a beautiful image. I was watching this for several days, trying to find the perfect picture for you guys to share what a herd looks like. But guess what? I found one bull walking off by himself. And the controller of the camera kept looking for him for several minutes after this, but he just walked across that hill and that was it. That was the last that the camera man or woman saw of the bull, because he's just wandering around looking for his next resting spot, his next meal, his next female, because it is that time of year. The Highlands National Park has a breeding ground for where they have their calves, and then also this grassland area. So it's rather fascinating if you can go find that. Thank you, Canada, our neighbors to the north, for allowing us to see and watch the beautiful animals walk by. So now I'm using burnt umber again to come in and build up the color of the bison. So the colors for the males are two-tone. So they'll have a very light patch on their shoulders and the big hump on their back. That hump, by the way, is all muscle. It is not fat. It is not fat stores. It is muscle meant for strength. It is used so they can plow through snow with their head and find grass underneath so they can continue to eat throughout the winter. These are some of the highlights from the live feed that the Grassland National Park is able to capture. This is a bull just drinking water out of their pond reservoir that they have available where the camera is posted. I'll come in and use the same burnt umber almost everywhere. I'm leaving the snout and the eyes white for now. I'll come back in with some darker pigment with a thicker value as well. I added some indigo to make that a little bit darker because on this side of the bowl, he's in shadow. We just saw another video of a bull rolling in the dirt. If you've seen animals in the wild, that's what they do. Sometimes it's to get the flies off of them. Sometimes for bison, it's to actually get some of the shedding off. Like this bull here, you can see all of that two-tone fur is trying to come off. He is getting rid of that winter coat, and rolling helps them kind of dislodge some of those bigger chunks. So on his hump, I will maintain that as a lighter color. I used a little bit of burnt sienna in that mix. It'll dry a little bit lighter, and then I'll continue to build up shadows of the burnt umber. The interesting facts about bison in our country, they were almost extinct. So initially, we pretty much hunted them to extinction. There were millions of bison in North America until the European settlers came and pushed west and reduced their habitats and hunted the bison. And unfortunately, we almost hunted them completely out of existence. So thankfully, the United States Interior and a couple of amazing organizations at that time were able to preserve the herds around them. And matter of fact, the Bronx Zoo in New York was one of them. And they were able to save the entire population of bison. So from the late 1800s, when the population was down to a few hundred bison, that's all since changed. So in total, there are about 30,000 living in public conservation herds and on tribal lands, but about 400 to 500,000 bison in the United States living in and amongst ranchers. Now that some of the paint has dried along his big shoulder hump, I wanted to come in with a little bit darker pigment and really show where the shadows are in his fur. So first I did behind the lighter shade of his shoulder hump to build shadow. So that fur is very thick depending on the time of year. And I wanted to indicate that it's starting to come up a little bit and shadowed from the light on the left side of the painting. You can see here where they're in the water how that lighter fur is starting to come up and starting to shed from the long winter, and where the shadows are there. Now I'm coming back in with a clean damp brush to lift up some of that paint where I had the outline for the horns. Wanted to make sure that those were still visible. So this is another highlight from the Grasslands National Park. I don't know what that pipe is, and I know they have the structure around it to protect it, so it must be important. And I wonder if they're sitting on the side of their seat as they watch these bulls and cows scratch and push along the structure, protecting that longer pole, and if it's going to give someday. So this is another image of maybe a cow drinking from the pond, and it doesn't look like her fur is really developed yet, so it's very blended into the back of her fur, and it's not quite as two-toned as the bulls will be. That is another difference between the males and the females. Also, if you've ever seen bison on videos, certainly you've seen bison chasing people in Yellowstone National Park, and all of the viral videos that go around the internet. But one of the videos that I like watching a lot are when there are babies. Anytime there's a baby animal of any kind, I like watching those. We're going to see some in the videos that I've captured here. The babies are called red dogs. And the reason they're called red dogs is because their fur is really more orange red, and they stand out. They're not at all protected from predators with their camouflage like other animals might be. But then again, who needs camouflage when you have an entire herd of bison that stand anywhere from 5 feet tall to 6 feet tall at the hump to protect you? I would feel safe. So as each layer dries, I'll come back in with a little bit heavier value of the burnt umber and build up those shadows of the very curly fur on top of his head. And then I'm also going to build up his eyelids. I'll have a couple of video and pictures coming up shortly that show that it's very thick and almost like a thick layer of leather covering their eyes, and maybe that's to help with the snow plowing or the dust that they might encounter, but you'll see here in a few minutes what that looks like. So I'm starting to build that up and bring some shadow underneath it with some Payne's gray. Their eyes are more on the brown color. I'm going to add that as the base and then come back in with a larger pupil that will be Payne's gray after that dries. I'm also using Payne's gray with my very small number 0 for the nostril shadows, and then I've added more burnt umber to start building up the shape of the muzzle. I love this guy sticking out his tongue. During rutting season, they'll do that often. They'll walk behind females, and that's how they pick up their smell. According to the Department of Interior, you can judge the mood of a bison by its tail. So when it hangs down and swishes from side to side, the bison is usually calm. If the tail is standing up straight, watch out. It may be ready to charge. And it says no matter what the bison's tail is doing, remember that they are unpredictable and can charge at any moment. every year there are regrettable accidents caused by people getting too close to these massive animals. And one reason you will not see any video of people from Yellowstone Park or any other national park trying to capture videos or pictures with a bison is because I don't think that's a good idea for your safety. And I also think they should be left at peace. Look at this eye. Look at that eye that can tell you 1,000 stories of 1,000 generations. I put in that Payne's gray and I'm just lifting a bit to give it that highlight. Now my bowl looks a little bit sad. I was trying to make him look over to the right. Didn't quite work that way. But maybe he is thinking about all the times that he had to defend his family from, let's say, this coyote that's walking amongst the herd. Now in this highlight, this coyote walked back and forth and back and forth. Every time he walked by a calf, you can hear the bulls or the cows grunt, and the babies would get up and they would move position. He was waiting. So if you ever have the opportunity to go see one of these magnificent animals in a national park, please be considerate of their space and their home. Watch them from afar, with safety, and maybe with a paintbrush. Thank you for allowing me to share the story of the bison and the amazing comeback it's made in North America. And may you one day be able to see this magnificent animal with its family or as the lone bull. As we respect the animal and its environment so it can live in peace. I hope you have a wonderful day. Until next time, bye-bye.